Good morning. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for that warm welcome. Did you know that you are living in a microcosm of a city among these dorms at 2100 South Moberly Avenue? You have a place to sleep, eat, work, study, be entertained, participate in sports, walk around, develop your spiritual life, meet friends, network with professionals, and pursue your talents, follies, and dreams. Your ability to navigate this campus, find what you need, solve problems, discover happiness, has already influenced your ideas about what you dare to dream regarding the place you ultimately want to live in. You're smart enough to know that the perfect place probably won't be the spot where your first job is located. It could take years and many moves before you get there, but when you do, you'll know it. So let's take a few minutes to talk about some of the things that you might want to see in that perfect place where you want to live, grow your business, raise a family, and live the life you've always dreamed about. If I had to guess, I'd say that these are some of the things you'd want to see in that ideal city. A vibrant downtown, something that even if you didn't like crowds, you'd still be proud to know that it had a successful business district, entrepreneurs, restaurants, museums, small parks, and music venues. You'd probably want hike and bike trails too, and a mean to get around your new place that didn't involve hours spent in a car. Parks? Of course you'd want parks. You'd probably want parks in your city, your neighborhood, your business district, and trust me, playgrounds are going to be a big part of your future. Naturally, you'd want this place to be safe, feel secure at all times, and have an outreach to people who fall through the cracks of a routine community life. All of this with a vibrant church life and a friendliness so that you feel welcome and your associates do too. So think for a moment, where in this big world that we live in would that city be? Is it in Texas? Is it even in North America? I'll be honest, I'm a little partial to Switzerland myself. So I'm going to give you a moment to think about what this perfect city might be. So when I was a little girl, one of my very favorite things to do was to play with my Barbies. And I'd probably rope in my brother's G.I. Joes and Star Wars action figures, and I would move them all into houses and communities that I built. To my mother's utter horror, I would get her household goods and build them into the hallway, creating towns and cities. And then I'd collect cereal boxes and blocks and go outside underneath this gigantic magnolia tree where its craggy roots were just right for giving me the world that I wanted to create, the world that I wanted to live in, at least until dinner time. And then I grew up. I went to college and I collected a degree in filmmaking. And then I moved all by myself across the known world from Greenville, South Carolina to Detroit, Michigan. I'd been hired on as a multimedia assistant for a company that created promotional materials for the auto industry. But I almost couldn't focus on my work for staring out those plate glass windows on the 19th floor of an office tower, looking out on how people would get in their cars and move around the parking lot, the streets, and ultimately onto those amazing superhighways that were around Detroit. We worked a lot of long hours at that job, but every Friday or weekend that I could, I was looking for a festival to attend, an old neighborhood that maybe showed some of the architecture that used to be, or a small town, kind of giving me that glimpse to what life was like in this new area. I was as fascinated by the way people lived in Michigan as I was that new auto line we were rolling out. I'll be honest, the job only lasted a year, but my obsession with how people live, community life, city growth, social dynamics, and overall livability has grown steadily since. Maybe because my dad was in the military, we moved around a lot when I was growing up. And then I married a guy in the military, and we moved to Germany 6 months after our wedding. But I'm drawn to understanding how people live, work, and play in the places where they are dropped, to live. But it wasn't until I was a young mom living in San Antonio, Texas, that I finally figured out that the patterns that I'd been assimilating in my casual studies actually meant something. And it was through tiptoeing out into community engagement that I finally revealed the tools that were needed to make better things happen in the places that God had led me to live. That was a game changer for me. So I took those baby steps into making my small neighborhood better. And then that grew into working with volunteers in San Antonio. And then that led to running to be a precinct chairman with the Republican Party. And then that led to some state-level things that put me in contact with another really great woman who was volunteering. You might have heard of her. Her name was Laura Bush. And I began to see how political engagement made my city better. It could influence public policy and even state-level platforms. That was fun. And then we moved again. We landed in Longview 17 years ago. I thought we had been gifted with one of the most beautiful and ideal places to live in the state of Texas. It has enviable weather, soil that will grow everything from okra to roses, hills, lakes, a river that never seems to run dry, and of course the most abundant natural resource of all, oil. Thanks to being a city that was laid out by the transportation network of the late 1800s, that would be the railroad companies, Longview has a great grid for transportation. You might have known it can get you all the way to Target in just a few minutes, as well as to Dallas, Shreveport, and Houston. It also has Amtrak, a regional airport that many of you know quite well, and an information superhighway that connects high-speed fiber optic all the way across the southwestern United States. From that road right out there, Moberly Avenue, we can move people, products, and ideas all across this nation. So I looked around Longview and wondered, why is it just a population of 80,000 people? And why do we have so many blighted spaces? Why is it that most of the jobs that are available in Longview are oil and gas dependent? I was juggling writing assignments with raising my kids when I found myself posing these questions to friends around my dinner table. Sometimes, I'll be honest, to a tedious degree. So finally, I decided to do something about this. I saw so much value in Longview that I was willing to stick my neck out one more time. I went to a town hall meeting, and at the open mic portion, I raised my hand and I expressed my concerns about the lack of reinvestment in older areas and the need to give infrastructure attention so that it could spring back if only it had the tools it needed to succeed. Thank the good Lord I wasn't left hanging after something like that, and others came up to me after the meeting and said, "We feel the same way that you do. Can we talk? Can we do something?" So a band of us grouped together and decided to take our little neck of the woods and do something about it. We called our grassroots group Go West Longview. In a short time, we accomplished our goals. Community re-engagement, awareness, we took care of some old laws, and we inspired folks to run for office. I was one of those folks that ran for office, and though I didn't win my bid to become the county commissioner, I did gain serious traction on getting the message heard that Longview has value, and we need to work real hard to make sure that it is prepared for the future. One of the things I was able to get involved with was something that many of you in this room helped to accomplish. The City of Longview's long-range comprehensive plan got huge attention, input, and a voice from an event that was held in this place 2 years ago. Many of you sat in meeting rooms, filled out survey questions, drew ideas onto dry erase boards, and gave serious credibility to the ideas that a Longview for the future needed to reflect the ideas of a future generation. So I want you to know that since those meetings, the Longview City Council and the mayor have adopted those long-range plans to include funding some pretty nitty-gritty small area plans for downtown and the I-20 corridor, of which LeTourneau University sits smack in the middle of. The City of Longview has also changed over to compressed natural gas in their fleets, has moved to create a dedicated Parks and Recreation department, reinvesting in neighborhood parks, extending hike and bike trails. 2 new parks are under construction even as we speak. the Green, which is an entry-level park right there at Spur 31, and the Arboretum, 26 acres that can be cultivated into forests, meadows, and formal gardens, along with extensive hike and bike trails. You may have heard that food trucks are now rolling into Longview, and restaurants are popping up all over the northeast side of town, almost as much as every time you turn around. Now, granted, there's been a national downturn in the oil and gas markets, and that has affected the bottom line of city government, not to mention employment issues for the folks that live here. But this is the time to plan and prepare, because as you well know, cycles eventually shift. And when prosperity returns to Longview, we want to put shovel to dirt. It's my goal that when you return for your 20th college graduation reunion, that you drive into Longview stunned and amazed by the changes that you've seen. Much like the people that are coming in a few weeks for the university's 70th anniversary are going to fall over in shock when they see how different this campus looks just in the last 15 or 20 years. So I dare you to dream about where and how you want to live. And then be prepared to inherit a place that may be in need of some social and livability changes to make it just right. A fixer-upper, if you will. Every one of you has a dream, and some of you will be the catalyst for change in your communities. I dare you to imagine it. And then I dare you to reach forward and be that change. It will take hard work, vision, and perseverance. These things don't happen overnight. But you all have that work ethic and so much more, or you wouldn't be a student at LaTourneau University. Leave today with a dream in your head and a new conversation for the table at lunch. Don't you dare think that you can't accomplish what you dare to dream. You have the abilities to make good things happen. You can create the city that you want to live in. Thank you. Y'all have a great afternoon.